So what I wanted to touch on is been looking into there was a TV show recently contacted me about doing something on ancient mysteries and stuff, and what are my angles? Most of the stuff they've talked about I shot down pretty much straight away, you know. But he wanted to expand on the Ark of the Covenant, you see. So, and I thought, well, do you know what? I'm not going to just give him the normal run of the mill here, because you can just Google it and you can find that sort of stuff. And so I'm going to give him some of the stuff that I kind of did some research on some time back.
Mhm.
And It was about the mercy seat, interestingly enough. So it
Mhm.
says, like, on the day of atonement, the high priest would kind of enter the most holy place and sprinkle
Mhm.
blood as a sacrifice, like a bull or goat. And it was supposed to represent the diminish of people's sins, in a sense of
Mhm.
speaking. But the practice was apparently the lid of the
Mhm.
ark, it got the two cherubs. In between the two cherubs is this, what is referred to as the mercy seat. Interesting reference, of course.
Mhm.
The mercy seat, and according to some of the research here, is that the process is that the highest priest of
Mhm.
a group of priests, which we talked about that before, because apparently there was certain groups of priests with certain types of blood, a certain
Mhm.
type of blood group. People have been asking me that. It is a rhesus negative by chance, but which was said to be able to manage the arc in some way so that the were more deterrent to radiation or electrical arcing,
Mhm.
ARC, from this so-called device. But the lid also acted as an altar and a throne to
Mhm.
God.
Right, he would
And
descend
it
down.
is
Yeah.
written that, what the process was. I don't know why the symbolism of seven comes into it, but, you know, seven drops of blood has to be dropped onto the mercy seat for the manifestation of God to appear to communicate. So when we had listings in just roughly outlining, oh yes, the Ark of the Covenant was said to be some type of communication device. You've got this section of information suggesting, well, yeah, it kind of was then. If you're invoking, which is it's a practice of invocation, and it's
Mhm.
through blood, again, how many times do we have to keep going over this situation, don't we? About
Mhm.
the blood invocation through sacrifice is everywhere, all over the
Mhm.
world in regarding ancient times, and now artifacts as well.
Mhm.
The seven drops of blood would be the process, the invocational process of the manifestation to appear on the mercy seat, where the communication took place. But it
Mhm.
had to be done through an invocational practice, you see. And of course, what I ended up sort of getting into then was, well, there was a bit more to the arc than obviously just this. I mean, not only was it
Mhm.
used to symbolize, but on materialize or manifest communications through invocation, but it was taken into war, it was taken into battles, you
Mhm.
know. It was also allegedly supposed to hold the broken tablets that Moses had. Now,
Mhm.
of course, Moses, debating, was it Sinai or Horeb he went up? Well, it was Horeb he went up, but Sinai was a bit of a cast off. Oh, yeah, it was over there when it was over here, sort of thing. But you go back
Mhm.
to 1904, and you've got William Flinders Petrie, who was an archaeologist who went up there and discovered something strange, which was an old temple. Now, this old temple, first thing he realized was it looks to be Egyptian, but it's not in Egypt. On top of Mount
Mhm.
Horeb is not in Egypt. It's quite some far away from him, Egypt, actually. But a very symbolistic of an Egyptian temple. And
Mhm.
rumors have it there was a lot of this white stuff around on the floor and stuff, and he was curious what it was. And he believed it was some type of smelting plant for gold, which were
Mhm.
turning gold. When you vaporize gold, it becomes monatomic powder. But the qualities of monatomic powder, even in current, more modern experiments that took place in Switzerland and in Russia, I said to demonstrate that, and it was quite crazy. They had to use an industrial oven and a special stone bowl, which is made from stone, volcanic stone, because there's no, I mean, you got to raise the temperatures to something like 6,000 degrees to vaporize gold.
Hmm.
You're going to need an industrial oven. You're not just going to be able to do that in any average oven. They put this into the gold into this special stone pot, and they put it into the industrial oven, and they're monitoring it and trying to figure out what is all this about. Suddenly, around about 6,000 degrees, there was a tremendous flash of light. The actual gold had changed its chemical composition to a white powder,
Hmm.
monatomic powder, or monatomic gold, as you might say. Not the stuff you might buy on eBay. I mean, the purities of stuff on eBay are about 2% compared to the old alchemistic versions of the true monatomic powder. But what was really interesting is what the scientists noticed is that when they actually brought out this volcanic stone bowl holding, which was once
Hmm.
gold, is now holding powder, is that they were amazed to find that the bowl literally weighed nothing. It had lost its weight value, and it's a heavy, heavy bowl. And I couldn't understand. And they brought it out, and they realised the powder itself was causing some weight difference when it's in contact with physical material contact with the bowl. So they started to do some bit more experiments on this, and they
Hmm.
realised, second set of experiments, but that applying a certain frequency to the atomic powder, and this will be in the terahertz frequency range, which is interesting
Hmm.
because terahertz frequency is something that we get from the rising of the sun or the
Hmm.
setting of the sun, because when it rises on the horizon, and this is why it's so symbolistic in ancient times, or it sets on the horizon, because it's coming through so much atmospherics,
Hmm.
it's coming through, it's filtered to the point where you got kind of a true terahertz frequency of light coming through. This is why you have a lot of ancient sites around the world lying to the rising and the setting sun, because a lot of those resonant chambers, the sunlight passes into, and at the time of creating a vocal which many people can't do now because you don't have the vocal cords, or if it's, for instance, the Gudra mantra, which takes half a lifetime to even achieve to do it, if you've got the vocal cords, that is. That particular type of and the which is a frequency, and the
Hmm.
frequency of light coming down the chamber and hitting the central location is a double lock system. You've got two frequencies interacting with each other. And at times, even with experiments that Barry had done,
Hmm.
recordings take place with recorders in that location, and it's picking up sounds not from our side. It's picking up sounds of moving rock. There's no rock moving. Picking up sound of drum beat. There's no drum beat. It's picking something up. So something is
Hmm.
happening when joining this double lock system in certain locations, which are still active under certain conditions. Well, we've just come out the hypogeum, and a lot of things that don't seem to add up in this location. 7,000 bodies allegedly found with human skulls, normal human skulls. Of course, they made a big fuss about on the signpostages in there about alien skulls, and now that they're not alien skulls and they look more like us. As you can see, Barry's just coming out now. I don't know, it's odd. There's some things that just do not add up, and I'm sure Barry might sort of probably say the same thing. One of the things we did notice is that it's warm down there. Barry, what's your first impressions?
I've got a lot of questions which weren't being answered.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things which just don't sit comfortably with me.
Yeah.
The idea of going down there with torches and there's no soot on the roof.
I know. That didn't make much sense.
What were
did
they using? Flashlights? Maybe wind-up flashlights. Prehistoric wind-up flashlights.
Do you notice the condensation though dripping on the walls from the ceilings of water? Yeah. So there wouldn't have been. I mean, sustaining down there for long periods of time doesn't seem something that would have been done.
Vast though, quite vast. And yes, there does seem to be.
And steps that lead down to the third level and then drop 2 meters.
Well, apparently there's more. I was talking to the guide, and he's saying that there's actually more levels that they're still digging and finding.
But why would you drop 7 steps and then drop 2 meters suddenly? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Unless it was for storage of water.
True. Yeah. More to be discovered at the Hypergene, and like Barry said, too many questions and not enough answers.
That same frequency of light is also, interestingly, been measured around the auric field of UFOs, terahertz frequency. So what's going on here? You've got UFOs that are producing terahertz frequency. You know, these balls of light in the sky, and they think they're tremendous. Some of them can output a tremendous 9 megawatts. You know, it's just incredible. I mean, you're talking about the same as a power plant here, you know, the amount of light source, and they don't act in the physical sense, you know, because sometimes you expect to light the whole area up and it doesn't, you know, so it's beyond the normal physics of our understanding. But when you measure the type of frequency, a lot of them are falling within the terahertz frequency range. So you've got this terahertz frequency range associated with the ancient sites, which were used for communication at certain times with the double lock system, and the UFOs, and now a monatomic powder. So I'm thinking, okay, terahertz, what's going on here? So when they applied the terahertz frequency to this monatomic powder, 43% of it is documented. 43% of it visually disappears. And you're like, where's just almost half of it's disappeared. Where's it gone? When they got rid of the frequency, it appears again. So what's causing it to suddenly disappear like this? So what they did is that they caused it to disappear at terahertz frequency. They ran a pencil through it, and they could feel mass. So it was physically there, but wasn't in visual range. It was phasing out of our vision. It was phasing out of beyond our visual capabilities. 43% of it was, anyway, at least. So I think, okay. So this is when you start getting into the UFO metamaterial stuff, and you're thinking, hang on. When you start to look through these scientific documents, which between the lines you can read what they're doing, they're testing metamaterials under terahertz frequencies. And they're noticing Tom DeLonge can never keep his lips shut, unfortunately. You know, oh yeah, it's great because what's really interesting is that sometimes by applying these terahertz frequencies of light, they lose the weight value. There you have it. This is in the UFO metamaterials. Yeah. They are also becoming cloaked. There's your 43% of visibility, maybe more masterful in metamaterials. So there's a definite connection between monatomic alchemy, and which is very, very ancient, and UFO metamaterials.
That's incredible.
That's what's so. You're taking something which is supposed to be so futuristic, and yet, hang on, you're looking at the details, and you think, hang on a second, this is what I'm reading here. It says the same thing is like in ancient times. It's ancient alchemy. What is going on here, sort of thing? So they basically it's the same thing. It's just produced in a modern time.
It's Edward Kelly.
It's
Edward Kelly and John Dee, my friend.
It really, really is. And it starts getting very surprising then, because you start to think, okay, what experiments furthermore are they doing in regarding metamaterial analysis? Well, can it be, is it more advantageous to create it in a non-gravity environment? Then you start to hear that certain experiments have been carried out whilst in space in the 3D metal printing of metamaterials. And you think to yourself, well, why would you be doing 3D metal printing in space under zero gravity? What's going on here? You know, and what are they using?
Metamaterial is an artificial material that we make with a bottom-up approach. A metamaterial we can make by taking a piece of metal and winding it into a shape that looks like a C pattern. That metamaterial will respond in a certain way to light. And based on how many windings we make and the size of that C resonator, we will get a prescribed response to electric and magnetic fields. So some of my research is focused in the terahertz range of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Now it starts to get very interesting, and I will come back to this because this section then goes into,
Mm-hmm.
well, what are they made of then? You know, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
start getting very interesting. But before I get to that, I have to sort of mention about Jason Sands. Now, Jason Sands is a whistleblower. He's come forward. He's pretty known over the last several months now. He's been on Joe Rogan and then a few other things where, and there's been a couple of these whistleblowers which have been trying to come forward. There was one whistleblower, if you remember. What was his name? Was it Mark? Was it Darcy? I can't remember now. But he
Well,
he produced this Enochian symbolistic language, didn't he? And he was
oh,
using, do you know
Matthew Brown.
Matthew Brown? That's it, Matthew
Yeah.
Brown. So he knows Matthew Brown,
Mm-hmm.
and Matthew Brown reading between his information is kind of saying what without saying. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of saying what we're saying without saying it.
Right.
You just can read between the lines. So this is what Jason Sands said, and this was only about maybe a week ago. Yeah, and I just kind of read between the lines on what he's trying to say here. He says, "I know this might not drive with some of you, all who don't believe in God, but
Mm-hmm.
at the end of all this, this is what it's all going to be about, right? So what's it all going to be about? Well, it's all going to be about God at the end of the day. Now, how many times have we said, has religions been hijacked or
Mm-hmm.
created in the image of what the NHI wanted? So
Mm-hmm.
really, what are we praying to? Are all the things that we're praying to associable to NHI and the
Mm-hmm.
design that they've created? You know, does religion even exist? What born religion? What was it? Why did people one day suddenly need a deity? Why did they? You know, I mean, clearly they were functioning pretty well, and all of a sudden they have to have a deity to be able to produce things. If the deity never produced anything for them, then it probably would have been dropped by the roadside a long, long time ago. But no, there seems to be something in this, a reward through
Mm-hmm.
homage. The question is, and this is why people don't want to talk about this stuff, is
Right.
because of religion. It's because of that constraints of religion that keeps us in that box saying, oh no, 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 because it's got to be this or it's got to be that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of what he's saying. He's saying we're a race that somehow was enslaved by these
Mm-hmm.
beings, altered by these beings. A lot of the governments, even throughout the millennia, are being manipulated by these beings even today. This is Jason Sands saying this. I'm thinking, I'm like, what? What you just said?
Right.
Jive with some of you all that don't believe in God. But at the end of this, that's what this is all going to be about. I know that. Dylan knows that. There's a lot of other whistleblowers that know that. And I don't mean to piss people off, and I don't mean to make it sound like, you have to do this or do that. Faith is a very personal thing. But if you look at some of the things you guys were touching on, and what Tom and other folks were talking about, we're a race that somehow was enslaved by these beings, altered by these beings. A lot of the governments, even throughout the millennia, that are being manipulated by these beings, and even today's world, I will tell you that we are being manipulated. And that's the real truth of it all. That's the reality, is that our own governments are being played. And that's something that I know is a very somber thing to have to understand. And that's where we're headed. And you'll see that in religious texts, as Tom said. Or as Tom said, just we need to understand that that's our story. This is our story. And so whistleblowers, yes, what we're talking about on Capitol Hill is just a very small portion of the entire story. Yes, it's about the shiny objects we have in our possession and the technologies that are being withheld from us. But honestly, that's all being controlled very tightly by the NHI. I can tell you that because that's exactly what I've been trying to say all along.
Is that the reality, our governments are being played, and that's something that I know. As he's saying, I know they're being played. Governments are being played. Yes, it's about shiny objects. We have got those in possession. I understand that because the phenomenon would want that. It really does want that. To be honest, all of it is all highly controlled very tightly by NHI. So
Yeah.
they're not at the steering wheel. It's controlled by them. You might have an offering. We'll give you this. We'll be in gifting fields. We'll give you UFOs. We'll give you, some crash biologics or whatever. But it's always going to be controlled by us. This is what he's trying to say. People inside the legacy program, now the legacy programs associated with UFOs, could very well be playing with fire. And I believe, like I've said many times, that my friends' lives are at risk and they don't even want to recognize that. But that's the kind of what things are going on. And I just needed to get that off my chest. Okay, so he sees the concern here. We're trying to tell you something very important to mankind, and that the guys, it's personal. It's very personal. Well, these things would be, wouldn't it? And it's also very sweeping for mankind that we've seen, and there's profoundness in all of that. It's hard to relate to because it's made up of all these experiences that you wouldn't believe half of the stuff that I've been holding back on because it's just too fantastical. As it's been said many times, Jacques Vallée, they're producing absurdity on purpose to make it so fantastical. Nobody wants to believe it. It's just too crazy, It's not even close to anything we've talked about. These things going on in the NHI world that are completely horrible and completely good as well. How many times have we sat here going, how do we tell people if it's good or good or bad, black or white? He's saying here, it's all. He's saying it's completely horrible and it's completely good as well. And it's all combined. How the hell? This is why we're all stuck going, what is it? Is it this or is it that? It's all combined. That's what he's saying. So they might, it's like one of those, it's like a dog that's got schizophrenia, isn't it? You go and stroke it. Oh, I love you. I lick you. Da, 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 da. Next minute it wants to bite your hand off. It is the same thing, At the end, like I said, there's going to be an end, and there will be an end to all of this, and we will need to be prepared for that in some manageable way. It might be that we are infiltrated at the highest level by people that are not even into the program. Who knows? Maybe NHI in disguise or controlled.
This
Interesting.
is dark territory right here. Yeah.
Dark territory. That may be another aspect of this whole thing. Are people guided by NHI to do what they want to do? So that's a real big problem. It might be that we're in the truth, we do find out that we maybe have been a slave race and that we've been manipulated. How's that going to be ever understood by anybody? How is anybody going to be feeling about that? That the NHI have been messing with us for millennia, even since the born of the planet, maybe. That they've been messing with us. How are we going to feel about that? That's the real truth. That's going to be really wrecky, because that's what's wrecked me, and probably some of the many other whistleblowers. So yeah, it's a busy day, and I'm just trying to wake up each day and carry on. This is a whistleblower who came forward. He's been on Joe Rogan. He is trying to say, in his own words, he's trying to say something without saying it, without literally laying it on the line. But from what he's saying now, and I'm reading between these lines, I'm going ping, 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 all the things that we've been trying to tell people.
Right.
It's not us. You can take us out of the equation, Nathan, can't we? We can just stand back and go, it's nothing to do with us. We haven't been in touch with Jason Sands or any of these other people.
No.
They are starting to turn and starting to try their best to tell people kind of what's going on without throwing themselves in at the deep end. So, and that's an interesting time. It's interesting times because if that is happening, and I do believe it is. That means that there are others that know this. There are others that
Oh, the,
recognize it, but they're not coming to the table to explain it. At least we're at the forefront and trying to explain this to people as best we
mhm,
possibly can. That, is there good? Is there bad? Is it black? Is it white? What if it's all and everything? What if they can just turn like that on a penny and be something terrible or something beautiful? You know, it
right.
does not have to be division. It simply could be all, the all encompassing source, this all
Mhm,
encompassing source that we've tried to wrap our heads around because of religion. But it predates religion. The phenomena predates religion. So why are we all entangled in religion? We've got to get out of that, and you've got to just say, okay, what is this source? Because we can't
mhm,
rely on Catholicism to tell us, or any other religion to tell us. They've all got their own aspects and call and names for these things, but
mhm.
which, if you look at it all, it's pretty much all the same stuff. But those are new. Those religions are new compared to the phenomena's presence on planet
To the
Earth.
phenomenon.
So maybe it's
Yeah.
devised all these methods of doing this just to get ahead. And it's going to get ahead to a point now where people are saying up at the top level, AI. AI is going to allow, this is what they're saying, it's going to allow NHI to come forward. What the hell does that mean? AI is going to be allowing, this is what Tim Taylor said.
Yeah.
And it's like a new humanity is going to be born from this through AI. And AI is going to allow NHI to be with us and in a more common, realistic manner. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It is curious and dangerous times. I really do not know. But it's
It's
it's so ever present, though, isn't it? It's so all over the
mhm.
place now. People are talking about it. Big difference.
Yeah. It's a big difference. It's interesting that you're mentioning Sands because again, he has worked with Matthew Brown. On Brown's interview on Weaponized, he discussed how, and again, it's our research pretty much. I mean, not claiming that he's,
No,
saying
no,
this is what
state
we
stuff.
have been researching. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But he's talking about that we do live in a construct.
yeah.
And then he mentioned something else that a lot of people missed. He said that there are those who have left the construct. What?
Well, that's
What are
getting
we talking?
that's outside the box then.
That's outside the box, Steve. And I'm thinking when I'm watching this interview, I'm going, ooh, wait, I had to rewind it again. I pull my
Yeah.
brother in here. I'm like, watch this. Did I just hear that? Yeah, you did. There are people who've left the construct. And then you get on his Twitter or X account and he's posting, right? Sigils.
Sigils.
And yeah, and of Enochian magic and talking about how yes, there is a God, and it's just right in it's on our wheelhouse, obviously, because
Yeah.
we've been discussing this for months. Um, but it's almost like it goes back to Diana Pasulka's work when she said that yes, we do have whistleblowers, quote whistleblowers testifying before Congress, but those aren't the quote real
Mm,
whistleblowers.
mm,
I thought, uh-oh. And,
yeah.
and then she went to explain that as well. Okay, what are the real whistleblowers? Well, those are the people who are still stuck, right, in that model of angels, demons. This is an old,
Yeah.
old story. And it makes me wonder what they really, I mean, of course, we've wondered what they've known for centuries, but what do they really know about that model
Yeah.
that they're not willing to share? Because again, with your introduction, dealing with the metamaterials,
Mm,
um, if that was in fact again reached and accomplished by people like John Dee and Edward Kelly, who was an alchemist, by the way, Kelly
mm,
was,
mm.
then it would make sense as to why through their rituals they would have balls of light with little men looking at them,
Exactly. Yeah.
manifesting.
Yeah.
So we're pointing not just through again um, the research of demonology or the occult. Now it's kind of getting back to the scientific method where it's not binary, it's not spirituality or science.
Yeah.
That's not the model. The model is it's spirituality and science. And we're dealing with a mechanism here where one may have come before the other.
Yeah.
And now we get into the conversation of who's conjured the phenomenon enough to provide us technology of artificial intelligence. That
Yeah.
is concerning to me.
It really is concerning. And the thing is, it's like when you start to connect so many dots here, it's like it gets to a point where you say, do you know what? These aren't coincidences over and over
No.
again. Everything is connected. It's
Mhm.
just been utilized by so many different people in so many different ways to get to the same source, you know, and the source will do what it needs to do, you know, and it is interesting that so many people are attempting to actually bring forward. I mean, I've never heard of sigilization and ancient ritualistic practice so much in recent times. I
Mhm.
mean, okay, I was always knew about it in ancient times, but current times and current use. I mean, it's like, whoa, hang on a second. So it never left the building. It was
No.
always here and always being used. And now it's up to its gear. The gears are up. It's like, okay, you know, if you're gonna do this, let's do it properly. And now people are grabbing hold of it with two hands and
Yeah.
utilizing it a real lot to gain advantage because one of the main concerns what people are saying here is that they do it, and I don't think it's just that, but they're doing all this because they don't want the enemy to do it. But the thing is, they're all doing it.
Yeah.
They're all doing it, you know. And the phenomena is not taking sides. It's not going to turn around and say, "Oh, do you know what? I'm going to ignore the Chinese. I'm going to ignore the Russians. I'm going to just you American people." You know, no. It's going to deal with them. It's going to deal with them. It's going to deal with them
Mhm.
all because at the end of the day, the amount of homage and whatever it's achieving to get from these different
Mhm.
countries is rewarding for it. So it will
Mhm.
provide each and every, you know, so trying to get to the, you know, the gate first and say, oh, look, we got it first and we're doing this first. No, you know, I mean, look how far the Germans or the Russians were with scientific experiments into psi phenomena. It is
Mhm.
absolutely scary, you know, of what they were doing, you know, and you know, experiments in psi phenomena. I mean, we look into sort of Russian Soviet psi phenomena. I mean, Nina Kolodina, for an example, who's incredible PK abilities, but they weren't
Mhm.
happy with just stopping at that. Oh no,
Right.
let's bring in a frog. Nina, stop its heart, and she did. Now they pushed Nina day and night to the point where she had temporary blindness and illness because it really degraded her. The amount of work they were trying to push her to do was taking it
Mhm.
out on her to the point where she had to rest. Literally went blind for 3 days. You know, like hysterical blindness, but absolute blindness. You know, she
Mhm.
had to rest up because it was taking a toll on her. You know, but it was only for the sake of an American who
Mhm.
witnessed the acts that got the information out to the US. And this is why we know about it. Because I tell you what, when it comes to Colagina, it all went very quiet and all went very secret. What happened with all that? They wanted
Mhm.
her to be able to come up with the process of being able to psychologically use these abilities to stop people's hearts.
Yes,
You know,
that's
sci warfare. You know, it's just it's incredible. But that it's always about weaponizing. You always
right.
turn it to about weaponizing, and this is what everybody's doing. We're all doing the same damn thing. It's about weaponizing. What the hell? You know, it's like they've missed the plot here completely. I know.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It goes back to the Collins elite and some of their research, which I don't completely agree with their conclusions, but I do take their data into consideration, just for,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
caveat for everybody watching.
yeah, yeah.
But they were doing that kind of research too, and they discovered a faction within our government that were performing the same experiments. And this always blew my mind as well, where like the same remote viewers that had been working with our government just had a harebrained idea to remote view NHI.
Mm,
I mean, what could possibly go wrong there, Steve? What could possibly go wrong, buddy? And sure enough, whatever we're dealing with, it was like, bing, oh, you're
yeah,
gonna remote view me?
yeah.
Like they had an actual awareness of it, that they were being remote viewed.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah,
then and then all hell broke loose in the remote viewers' lives, because now the phenomenon responded in kind, only this time there were no boundaries. It
No,
wasn't a human, a mortal, limited, right, and unaware of their own abilities. This was something that was highly evolved, and
yeah,
there was no comparison.
no.
And that's when they were like, "Oh my God,
You
like maybe
see,
we shouldn't be doing this. It's not a good idea, there, fellas."
it is not a good idea. And the thing is, you can't play chess with the masters of chess, and the NHI are the masters. And the thing is like when you turn it regarding remote viewing, for an example, you can't turn it on NHI because NHI are like, what are you doing? I mean, even in Ingo Swan's own in his biography, he talks about being able to remote view like areas of the moon where he said that there were structures, there were beings there, non-human, intelligence, non-human intelligence. But within seconds, he said, it's strange that they don't wear clothing. It's strange that they don't need to wear breathing apparatus. Well, it's not the first time that's come up because, there was a Soviet cosmonaut and she was very vocal about the Russian satellites and probes that went to Mars, Phobos and Deimos, and she publicly stated at an event and to a researcher called Paul Stonehill, who's a very good researcher on Soviet UFO stuff. Nice guy. And he was telling me, he said, she said, oh yes, they were around the probes and stuff, but they don't seem to have to wear anything in space, because now it was literally something that was out only a couple of days ago. I saw it, and it's basically the evidence to support that the universe is alive. The universe, because the universe is still part of the construct. It's all part of the
Yep.
construct, so they can operate within the constructs. It's their constructs. They can operate. So this is why they don't need to wear things that for breathing apparatus. This is why they don't need to wear clothing. To us, we're limited because we're designed to be living in the construct, but they are outside of it and operate outside of it. She said they probe picked up intelligences outside in space around the probes. And this is exactly the same thing what Ingo Swann said when he was doing remote viewing of the moon. It also goes on to state in his biography that he was asked to remote view UFOs and stuff. But the thing is, just like the beings he claimed to have experienced on the moon, within seconds were aware that they were being remote viewed.
Yeah,
Within
absolutely.
seconds, they knew. When he was taken out to a secret location where a very large triangular UFO was being seen, he
Mhm.
was asked to connect with this remotely. But he was actually taken to the location and visually saw the object. And then they said to him, there it is again. Yeah. And it was some, I don't know if it was in Brazil. It sounded like it was some type of Brazilian forest land, very dense.
Mhm.
And he was there with some military people and he attempted to remote view this thing. And he said, I don't think in this one there's any occupants. The whole thing is sentient. The whole damn ship is the phenomena.
Alive. Yeah.
They're alive. And as soon as he locked onto that ship, it knew. And what happened was apparently it started firing beams of light at him, which was causing him injuries and stuff. They had to run for it. He was seriously damaged through falling over. He nearly broke his leg in the process. And he absolutely played hell about being taken there.
Mhm.
So we can't even begin to imagine that if they outside and can manipulate the reality, they and can be sentient, they're part of it, and it doesn't just end here with planet Earth. It continues out into
Yeah.
space. Space is still part of the construct. It's all sort of one big mass. What big mass intelligence, which is controlled by
Yeah.
them, and they can easily manipulate it. But I've said to people, we are confined to be in the box. How on
Mhm.
earth are we supposed to tackle something outside the box from within the box? We just can't do that.
Yeah.
They're the
It's
masters.
impossible.
It is. So to us, we'd have to say the godly power. It's this godly power. So when people are turning around like Jason Sands and saying it all ends with God does exist, yes, but what is God? What truly
Yeah.
is
What is
have we
that?
misinterpreted? Is NHI and everything involved God experiences in one way or the other? You know.
This is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
All right,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah.
It's been a
Incredible.
good one that we caught up, and yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
buddy.
keep in contact, buddy, and we'll we'll talk soon. Okay.
All right, brother. Have a good week. All right, my
And you,
man.
buddy. Talk soon. Ta-da,
Later.
mate.